and welcome to yet another segment of SiStar Light Up. I am your host, Jessica Alejandro, and of course, you know this because you're probably watching this on my Facebook page or on my YouTube page. So I'm very excited to be here. I have conducted an interview. It's actually a pre-recorded interview with a very special soul named Alyea Sandovar. She is a person who helps people develop their business through play or by using play. She helps entrepreneurs increase their business capacity by becoming more playful and doing things that make it easier. So she does a much better job at explaining this. So I hope that you watched the video, and we had to pre-record the video because she's actually in Bali at this time. She lives in Amsterdam, but she had to kind of be a shelter in place in Bali. Not a bad place to be sheltered in place as far as I'm concerned. But the interesting thing is we recorded this on May 8th. So that was a Friday here. And so it was 8:30 p.m. and it was 8:30 a.m. on Saturday for her. So it was really cool. And I learned a lot. She's a wonderful soul. The only thing is I'm not so technologically inclined. So I did not press record right when we got started with the conversation because I was so enthralled by her story and the way that she speaks. But initially what she was saying, we start the video about 5 or 8 minutes into the interview, and she was talking about her childhood and how she's always been intuitive and how that had to be pushed aside because, familial expectations of what she would be, a doctor, a lawyer, all these things, that our parents rightfully so want better for their children when they have them. So she explains it beautifully, and we're kind of in the middle of that conversation once the video starts. So I hope that you don't mind that. And there were a couple of technical glitches just with Zoom and a lot of people using it and stuff, but the quality of the interview is there, and I really hope that you guys watch and enjoy. So thank you so much for joining me again, and I appreciate you all. So I hope you enjoy the video. Have a good one.
Because I think especially in certain regions of the world, parents are really concerned for your survival. So they want to be able to support you the best they can by training you in the best way they can. And that usually means like, I need you to go to school, I need you to become a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or a business consultant. Those are like solid fields that you need to go to. So I was sort of like doing my best studying in school, even though I didn't really get school. And then because my parents wanted me to go to university, and I loved studying anyway, but I went to university, and then I got the job that they have always wanted me to get, which is like a business consulting job for Accenture. Mm-hmm. So this was like their dream. Their daughter has finally made it. She'll just be set for life. Yeah. And doing this job taught me a lot, but actually I was quite unhappy very soon into that job. I would say about a year and a half into it, I was very unhappy. And what happened was that I got sick during that job. I was so sick. I didn't realize how sick I was because I was like working out one day and then I fainted, and I didn't realize what it was. And then I went to the hospital and they said you're severely anemic. And then anyway, that took me down a path of I ended up having fibroid tumors, and they were quite large actually by this point, and no one knew. They're like this size.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so that sort of like and that sort of like woke me up. That was like the beginning of, let's say that I've always known that there was a different way, but because of the constraints of my family, and because honestly, I was a really good kid, and I wanted my parents to be so proud of me, and I still do. So I told my mom yesterday, I want you to be proud of me. And I just wanted to do the best and be a good daughter. And this shows up, and then I had to really reevaluate what it was that I believed in, and that was the beginning of like also breaking away from my parents, not in a bad way, but like really defining who I was apart from my parents. And I know for anyone that's Latin American, you realize that that doesn't happen to you as a teenager like other cultures.
Exactly. They hold on to you for as long as possible.
They can, yeah. And I began to like question things like, what is medicine? There's alternative treatments. I want to try that. I began questioning, like, I started getting into, I had already been introduced to meditation, but I really started focusing on meditation. I went to psychotherapy because the stress of having to deal with this, because I had very severe symptoms from it, and making my own choices. And I think that was like the sort of like the beginning of like waking up to the life that I wanted to create for myself, which was not in corporate America or in a traditional job. And yeah, and it cost a lot of strain in my family because they didn't understand what they didn't understand the choices I was making. They didn't understand why, because eventually I left that job, and why I would take this really menial, low-paying job for this like alternative healing doctor, or um, and also they wanted to make choices for me about my treatment. Like you need to go and you need to do this treatment. And I'm like, no, this doesn't feel right for me. So I think it was also the beginning of me finally beginning to listen to my intuition. Whereas before I really sort of like no, but I'm supposed to do this. So I'm sorry, intuition,
Yes.
go to the side.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say like that was let's say that was the spark or the catalyst. Of course, since then my road has been really windy, because when you're trying to craft a life that is yours, it's not always a clear path. I sometimes sort of like poke fun a little bit of my brothers and sisters who are quite not my personal brothers and sisters, but my brothers and sisters in arms who are the spiritual teachers of the world here. And when they tell their story, it's always like this culminating point that changed everything. And that is like the linchpin. And for me, I can say that this particular experience was a catalyst, but oh my gosh, have there been so many points throughout my life. It has not been one single point that has like transformed or changed, and I continue, right?
Yes.
It's never ending.
It's never ending. You're right.
Yeah. So this idea that you have this one big aha moment, and then like your life starts flooring from there. No. That was the beginning of me aligning and saying, yes. I will now lead the path. I will now start the path that I meant to start. And it took so many years, because I kept following sort of the intuition to try this and then try that and try that. At first I thought I wanted to be an alternative medicine doctor, and I studied some things on my own. I even went to some courses, not formal courses, but just kind of like understanding things. I'm like, I don't want to be a doctor. So then not that. And then I discovered I really wanted to study psychology. So I actually went to school for psychology, and I got a master's degree in clinical psych. But as I was doing my hours to become a clinical psychologist, I realized that actually I didn't want to do therapy. So 2 years, poof, gone in that way. And then, but actually it was through psychology and through doing the therapy with so many, and I did therapy with Latin American families, because I spoke Spanish, or I speak Spanish. And so I just learned that the best times we were having were when we were either playing or cooking or things like this, and they got the most out of therapy because I would do home visits. And so that kind of began like a little like niggle, if you want to call it that, that there was something there. And then I had seen a sort of like a startup weekend for games, and I thought, oh, I wonder, is that something I can do? Like do games? And I was like, and then I like traced back. I'm like, yeah, I used to play so many games with my grandmother when I was a kid. We used to play so many games, and she would show so many things. And I remembered when I played games with her that I realized that I was smart. And then later I did play games, and then in college I did play games like, uh, but these were things that were not serious, right? They weren't the ones that were going to get you a job, so you should not continue working on it.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and so then I just kept following the feeling or the idea to go in this direction towards games, and so I did whatever I could to then become and study games and gaming, and eventually I got a second master's degree, and then I ended up getting my PhD in game production, and I was so happy. Like, who would have thought
Yeah.
that this would have been my road? No one could have prepared me that I would be working in games, and also that that all the games that came to me that I've worked on are all games for change. So they're all games to make the world a better place, to educate children, to help people in some way, and yeah, and my psychology comes in really, really handy. And in all the work that I've done in terms for myself personally, the psychotherapy I went to, the different healers and alternative things or whatever, they really, help me stay grounded, especially when I've worked in large teams of like 50 or 60 people, and we're trying to launch a game. It's really, really stressful. So it really kind of keeps me grounded in the midst of a very hectic situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, that's the beginning of how things went.
I mean, and also keeping you grounded because, like you stated in the beginning, when you were a little girl, you kind of wanted to like shoot off into space somewhere, right? So it was like kind of that state of like just wanting to be up here all the time and needing to come back down to be able to ground yourself in this life, right? Because probably came from like Pleiades or somewhere, some star somewhere, and that's why you felt kind of not as grounded here on Earth, but you were able to do that through your work. And going back to the point that you said, I know so many people do kind of say this pivotal moment, but it isn't like that. It's this very windy road where there's like you said, there's catalysts that push you in the direction of like really following your intuition. But then you start following your intuition, and then the universe wants to test you and make sure that you're really, you're really trusting yourself. So they throws you a log, or it throws you a brick, or it throws you something that's gonna, get in the way to make sure that you're kind of, committed to being the light worker that you came here to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and it really is a process. And I think it's also a process of, well, like you mentioned, grounding. I think for so much of my life, I was so eager to leave the planet, right? And so confused by how people function and how the systems in the world were set up, and like annoyed. And I always felt like, ugh, I don't want to be here. A little bit like, these people are cuckoo. Yeah. Like, no. And then I mean, it took a lot of time and a lot of work to then finally be like, okay, yeah, but I'm here now, and how do I make the best of living here? And there's this sort of like place where you accept, you let go and accept and surrender that you're here now, and get on to the work that you're supposed to do, rather than trying to leave the planet.
Yes, exactly.
and I think that's the process of being here. Is I think there's a constant, just when you think this is where the layers and the ebbs and flows come there, that's what, just when you think like you've just let go of this huge part and accepted something, either faced something about yourself, or accepted something about the reality of how things are, there's another layer and another layer and another layer, and it's a constant process of letting go. And actually, once you let go, it feels great.
It really does.
But man, the stubbornness that sets in right before you let go. You're like, mm-mm. You just hold on like a dog on a bone, and you're just like,
Yes.
you don't want to let go.
It's so true. It's so
And
true.
yeah, yeah. And so and I actually had to get I think that there's a period for me. What happened is there's a catalyst and then catalyst and like learning and figuring it out and learning and learning and learning and absorbing information and practicing and practicing and practicing different practices, whatever you works for you, right? Like whether, I mean, I did meditation, and I did yoga, then I did healing work, then you're just constantly trying to figure out what your thing is, what you like, what works for you, what works for your body, what works for your mind, and then at some point that it's not that you stop learning, you do, but you stop sort of like I love this word that because I live in the Netherlands, even though I'm here in Bali right now. I love that the Dutch use this word when they speak in English, and they use the word faff, like faffing around. Stop faffing around, right? At some point, the learning sort of stops to that degree, and you need to get to the practice of doing it. Like okay, now you've practiced yoga or whatever. Now you need to do it every day, right? Like now you need to commit, but not commit like, oh, I gotta do yoga, but like, oh, I gotta do yoga, like, and that's part of the surrender, the surrender part of it. And once you get to the practice of it, which is what for me really, that was the point in which I was really then going up, was when I created my own creative practice, so that I could, my whole idea was so that I could stay in this playful mindset. So being in this playful mindset became the most important thing, because I noticed that when I was like aligned, I could see possibility, and I could see joy, and I could see all kinds of things. And when I wasn't aligned, that wasn't possible. And the only way to get here is to restart it every day, and it has to be every day. It's not you're not here all the time, and so and when I really dedicated myself to my creative practice, that's really I think when my whole my life was going great, but internally it really started shooting up.
What does your creative practice look like, if you don't mind sharing?
No, I don't mind sharing at all. I think, so my creative practice, I just wrote down all the things that I loved doing in my day. And then I said, well, what would happen if I did all these things? I was in between freelance jobs at the time. So I was like, well, I have time. So what would it take for me to do every single thing that I've always wanted to do in the morning, and I never get to because I'm too busy or whatever. So I wrote everything down. So I wrote like meditation, exercise, writing. What else did I write at that time? Probably like inspirational talk, like having a nice breakfast, eating my vitamins, taking my water, like all these things, right? And then then I tried it for 7 days, and then I was like, that wasn't as hard as I thought. So and then I said, well, let me try it for a month and see what happens. And so then I tried it for a month, and I was like, not as hard as I thought. And for me, it takes me about 2 hours to do it every morning. And then of course, then over time, now it's more of a toolkit. I don't have the same things, right? I have like a list of like 15 things that I do, and then from there, then I pick the ones that feel right for me in that morning. So, for example, right now, my creative practice is I wake up and I'm in this challenge where it's like a drawing challenge. So I do a drawing. Then I have these qigong exercises. So then I do my qigong,
Mm-hmm.
in the morning. Um, then I play a game with my mom. So, and we play like a little game together for like 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I meditate, and then I do a gratitude exercise, like thinking just 10 things that I might
Mm-hmm.
be grateful for. Um, and then and then I listen, especially during this time, because it's been such an intense period. I just find like my funniest people I know on YouTube, and I watch like 2 or 3 videos that make me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And right now that's my practice. Like this is what I do. And I realized that the reason I was introduced to like a practice before by a teacher who I learned from a long time ago, but it was so strict, and I had to do like reading for this much and running for that much and all these things. And and then I realized that really it should be very individual and very unique. It's
Mm-hmm.
whatever brings you joy, only you know what that could be.
Right.
And to define it for yourself, because if it's defined from outside of you, you're not going to commit to it. But
Exactly.
if it's defined from within you, then you're going to commit to it. Yeah. And so now I do it, and I noticed that I went from like these like hills and valleys in terms of like one day I feel good, another day not so good, to then like pretty consistently feeling good, just by connecting. And I think people can choose a different word if you want to say that you're connecting with the universe or with God source
Mm-hmm.
or with creative force or whatever, but that is what I do.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then as a result of that, then I started getting more messages, like more messages, more intuition, more guidance,
Mm-hmm.
um, that helps me a lot.
Yes.
So it's sort of like this, gift. And now it's like, honestly, it's like a nectar. It's like addicting. I'm
Mm-hmm.
so addicted to it because I don't want to I know what happens like if I'm not like this, like
Yes.
I mean, I'll use the word God, but like if I'm not one with God like
Mm-hmm.
this, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Oh yeah. It's so true. It's so true. When we lose that connection,
Yeah,
we can lose a
yeah,
lot. We can lose a
yeah,
lot. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't mean that I don't get frustrated, um I don't suffer,
Yeah.
like emotionally, and I worry still,
Of course.
but there's always like this layer of calm, right? It's not all of me anymore, right? Like it's the main the
Yes.
main part of me is the calm, and then on top of it sits like the worry or the whatever, and then it passes quicker too,
Yes.
because I'm not that's not all I am.
Right. The recovery time is much quicker. Like we're still having the human experience. We're
Yeah,
still dealing with our human emotions, but we don't let them consume us like
yeah,
it used to, you know. There's a big shift where you're right.
yes,
It's the base is
exactly.
calm, but everything, you're still a little anxious or a little worried or whatever, especially now with this craziness in the world, collectively.
Yes.
So yes, there's no such thing. Even Buddhist monks get upset or stressed or whatever. Just because they're always in that space doesn't mean that they don't still have the emotions. um yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And and
Exactly.
for you it takes 2 hours, and for a lot of people that do it, it takes about an hour to 2 hours. But for some people that are saying, oh my God, that's just too much, I don't have time to do that, because right, that's what happens, where, oh, we don't have time, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be 2 hours. It can be, you can do
Mm-mm.
everything for 10-minute increments, and it could take you, 40 minutes or whatever. As long as you do this practice, that's the most important thing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's not um I know when I tell people 2 hours, they're like their mind goes like,
Yeah.
what? And I was like, no, 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 don't, like that was my process,
Right. Right.
like I think the most important part is that you pick some things in the morning that make you happy,
Hmm.
so that the even if it's the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes of your
Hmm.
of your day are for you, and your connection and your calmness and your peacefulness and your playfulness, And I mean this to be really truly good stuff, right?
Yes.
I don't mean like, oh, I took a shower, I don't know what
Right.
things
Things that
people
you're
do
going
in
to
the
do
morning.
anyway, right? Things that you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
do
yeah,
anyway. Yeah, like your regular
yeah, yeah,
routine. Yeah.
yeah. I think unless it's something that you are consciously intending, like when you go into the shower, you like very consciously think of the shower and breathe and make that part of your thing. That's something you can do. Or
Right.
like when you're picking your clothes, you're like, I want to be creative in my outfits this morning. That's
Mhm.
kind of sort of like a way to integrate it. If you're doing that as part of
Yes.
like your everyday things, I think that is sort of like this connection. But if you're just going around doing the thing,
Right.
then making time for that extra, I would say at least 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I
Mhm.
think that for the most important part, I think for a creative practice, for me personally, was that I did more than one thing. So
Mhm.
a lot of times people think, okay, I'll just maybe meditate or I'll just do one thing. But I notice it takes several things in the morning of different types to sort of like calm the mind,
Yep.
to put the mind in a different space.
Mhm.
Um, so, uh, so for me, that's the recommendation. Pick, 2 to 5 things that you really love doing, and then do them in the morning for as long as it feels comfortable to you, and for as long as your schedule permits. And don't let the time or the types of things hinder you.
Right.
Pick things that you love, pick things that make you happy, and pick the time that works for you.
Mhm.
That it's all about you and what you need, not what I say or what anyone else says. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's beautiful. So evolving this business of play and
Mhm.
creativity, um, how so this kind of just, obviously with your intuition and opening up and saying yes, this came to you. This is like, okay, this is how I'm going to do this. How did that continue to evolve for you, and where are you with that today?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, well, at the beginning of my journey, I was actually making games, like digital games and games teams.
Okay.
And then I was also doing research because I have my PhD. So I was hired by different universities to um, do research and write papers and do journal articles and things like this. Um, and I found both those paths a bit constraining to a degree, right? From the academic perspective, it really is. Um, you really, to become relevant, it really is what they say, publish or perish kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not. And when I saw the whole structure of it, I was unhappy with it. And we can go into it later, so I can tell you where I am now without going into too much. But because people are working really hard for free for companies who are the companies that run the journals, to then use their intellectual property to then sell access to these journals to universities, who are the ones in the first place paying for the people whose intellectual property is being used.
Right.
So it's a very complicated and not healthy process. If you see how many hours academics work to try to make this happen, is incredible and so stressful. So that wasn't for me, even though I tried it.
Mm-hmm.
And then really did love making games and in teams. And um, that process felt good in terms of making a difference, but it's also quite stressful, especially at the very end. It takes much longer than people realize, and it's always buggy. You
Yeah.
can never have like this perfect final product. and and because to get on a team like this, you have to really you have to have a large network, which I was sort of growing in the Netherlands, where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And to get these projects, you have to They're long projects. Usually you're on these projects for 8 months to a year to maybe longer as a freelancer,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to build these things. Um, so that means also the lead time to build them takes longer.
Mm-hmm.
And the lead time to get on a project takes longer, and the lead time to get the funding takes longer. So I was finding myself in these very large gaps between my projects,
Yeah.
like more than the average freelancer because of the line of work I was in. And it was also, I didn't like it financially, but it was a blessing. This is what I mean about like, because it started me, I started having to ask myself, okay, what do I do, or how can I uh, become successful, or find financial abundance in the middle of these breaks? You know, I have to find this thing that people are talking about called passive income, or where does that come from, and how do you do it, and how does it work?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started then, again, through guidance. I went to I watched the Hay House Summit,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was watching one particular person there. So I watched, well, I saw Rebecca Campbell, then I saw um, uh, Carrie Green, and I was like, oh, Carrie Green, like, and so I joined her Female Entrepreneur Association group, and then from there, because that was an intuition, and then from there, I posted that I didn't know that many people in the Netherlands, and then someone who runs a group in the Netherlands found me, and then I started going to that group, and then began the process of educating myself on what it was, what it was like to sort of create an online business, or what is it that I could offer people with my background. um, and and it was actually a very beautiful, um, beautiful long process, because since I had so many, of course I had my gaming background, but I also had this wealth of knowledge of self-development. So I didn't know like what direction I was going to go. Am I still doing games because I love games and play and all these things, but I've I've done all this work, and I have a psychology background. Should I be doing something with that again? These kinds of questions. And then by going to these workshops and really trying to discover, like, another layer of self-discovery,
Mm-hmm.
in business this time, uh, then then I discovered, oh no, I really want to keep doing this with games, because I really love the creative process of making games. I really enjoy it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there in these meetings, so you can hear the little birds singing.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it.
They're saying yes, yes. um, uh, through this, like, a process of self-discovery, that I realized, oh my gosh, actually, um, people out there, not just in the game industry, not just in the academic world, really want to understand how they can make things more playful, how they can make things more
Mm-hmm.
playified. Entrepreneurs are interested in this, and for me, that felt really light and fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I started sort of like creating things. That I think the first things I did were, I started creating, sort of like these playbooks, and they just were like little bite-sized chunks of information that would help people learn about a little aspect of like online business, like really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get little points. And then after that, I was inspired, because I went on a trip with my aunt, and I was inspired to do these puzzles. So I was in Venice, and I saw shapes and whatever, and so I designed these puzzles, and then I hired a designer to help me do these art puzzles. And basically, they're PDFs. You download them. You pick fun paper that you want to create art from, and then you trace and glue. I mean, it's very simple, but it's
Mm.
super fun.
Yeah.
And then yeah. Oh, I'm noticing our little internet is a little slow here.
Yeah, it's a little
Sorry.
glitchy, but I can still hear you. You may freeze a little bit, but I can still hear what you're saying, so that's
Okay.
good.
Okay, good. And then and then I was like, okay, well, let me do something bigger. And
Of course, as soon as I say that, then I lose you. Oh no. This is bad. Oh, are you there?
Hey, are you back?
Okay.
Yeah,
See,
I'm back. I
as
love.
soon as I said, as long as I can hear you, no worries, and then I can't hear you anymore.
Exactly. So funny.
I know.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, and then I decided to launch something bigger
Mhm,
and try. And so I did something called the Playful Creative Summit,
mhm,
and that actually just launched April 1st through the 5th.
mhm.
And I co-hosted it with a friend of mine who's in the creative fields. And we interviewed 45 different speakers from um, games, from creative fields, from games, from um, yeah, uh, yeah, from everything we can think of,
Mhm.
and then we offered it to the world. So, and of course it was free, you know, like
Mhm.
people could watch it just like any summit. It's still up there, and and yeah, that was like my first big uh, online thing that I did,
That's pretty
and
big.
yeah, 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 and it was really great. I was really happy with it. I was happy with the design. I was happy with the interviews. I was happy with the response, the number of people that came to listen. I think we had about um, 1,400 people sign up, and so I
Wow.
thought that was really great.
Yeah.
And and I um, and now for the summer, I'm about to begin a play test of a playful membership. So that's going to be like my next thing. And you know, I mean, sometimes memberships have levels, but in my membership, it'll be like you'll have to complete certain things like a game
Uh-huh.
in order to unlock the other levels and then be invited to join.
Oh, that
So
sounds fun.
yeah. So we'll see, you know. So this is a little bit like in a way I'm sort of play testing and figuring out what um you know, because I'm still doing a bit of freelance work,
Mhm,
so what I can do in terms of online. And then at the same time that I'm sort of launching these online products, then I've been offering my services as a, you know, playification consultant to entrepreneurs, and that has been going well, um, because people, I didn't realize how interesting people would find it, and how much it would help them with, you know, building like an online course or or to really define something that they're doing, like maybe like a PDF or something that they're sending out, and I can, or if they're trying to figure out a marketing campaign, how to make it more playful, these kinds
mhm.
of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this has been really kind of like cool and interesting, and uh, I'm sort of, yeah, I'm sort of at this yeah, at this stage where things are really all like everything is really coming together now. Like my entire life is now really coming together now,
Yes.
you know, coming to this point. And yeah, and so
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. I guess that's the
That's,
summary.
I mean, that's it's just perfect. Like it's, and you know, and you have such a good angle because we forget as adults how to play. That's the main
Hmm.
thing. You know, I am a psychotherapist, and that's one of the things that I, you know, try to help my clients with is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
getting in touch with that inner child and being playful
Mm-hmm.
and being joyful. And because we get bogged down by the heaviness and the seriousness, and then if you know, I do a lot of couples work, so or you know, women's issues, and you know, they end up with,
Yeah.
you know, men who just drag them down, or a narcissist or whatever, and it's like they forget
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that this playfulness and this joyful part of them, you know, so trying to infuse that back into people, and into myself too, you know, because I forget about that too. And it's like we forget how to have fun, and we forget how to be creative and be playful. Like that's where it lies. Just because we grow up doesn't mean we can't be playful anymore. So
Exactly.
I was excited when I saw your website, when you reached out, and then I looked at your
Yeah.
website and I was like, this is so freaking cool. Like, I can't believe she does this. Like, she's actually made a living playing with people. Like, I mean, not, I'm simplifying it, but it's just cool that you can do that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's also part because it's my nature. Like
Mm-hmm.
I really like to like have fun and play,
Yeah.
um and yeah, and I like to laugh. Like I
Yes.
really, really, this is why I watch like my funny shows
Yes.
every day. Like I have to, and I'm the one that sends all the jokes to different people, even though, actually I'm not the funniest person, but I really, but I just like being funny, and
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
joyful and
It,
dancing and things like this.
it's important. It's so important.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
really forget, and it does ground you.
Mm-hmm,
It does help keep you grounded and keep you connected, not
mm-hmm.
just to a higher power, but also to the earth.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome.
I totally agree.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so I just, yeah, I feel it's my way of sort of serving the planet, serving people,
Mhm.
because I think my biggest desire, if I was to share it, is like I want everyone to be free. I want everyone to be free to truly be who they are meant to be here,
Mhm.
to make their own choices, to create the life that they're meant to create.
Yeah.
To and for me, and for those who are interested in this way, for me, the way to this sovereignty is through playfulness. I
Mhm.
call it playful sovereignty,
Yeah.
um, because there's so many layers of like uh, what we need to be freed from.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And yeah, and even like with this membership, like my whole idea behind the membership is about like um, helping people think and design their life like a game designer designs a game. So
Mhm.
it's like designing the game of your life, or this kind of thing. So um because I think it's a good metaphor for what we're actually doing, and it's a lighter, more playful, easier metaphor if you think of yourself as a designer. and
Yes.
and what does a designer need in order to create their designs, to create the world that they want to live in, to create the life that they want to live in, to create the work that they want to do.
Mhm.
um, what are the tools, what are the things that you need, and how do you encourage to get to do that. And
Right.
so I sort of had this like vision that you have like, first as a designer, because this is the experience I had, you have to come up with a playful mindset. You have to be playful first to see the opportunities of what it can be designed, what can
Mhm.
be designed. That's like sort of like the first step. Then the next step is, okay, now you need to understand how to design. What does it mean to design? you know who are the people you want to design for,
Mhm.
and what are their needs, what are their worries. How is it that you can be yourself in the design while also creating something that people love,
Yeah.
right? Um, and and then of course, in the third part is like, okay, then now what are the game mechanics or the gameplay that you can use in order to make the design a reality. And that's
Mhm.
like the third part. And the first part is about yourself and your playfulness and your mindset, and the second part is about creating your own playpen.
Mhm.
Like defining what that playpen should look like, and then actually making it
Mhm.
and making it happen. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. When do you think that the membership will be launched?
I think in about a month.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so June 15th. Yeah. And what I'll do is I will start first with the playfulness part, like the first part I talked about.
Mhm.
Um, and because I'm working on that now. The thing is, the part that's taking me a little long is that I'm creating these character profiles for people, so that based on, you take a little test, it tells you like what kind of player you are.
Yeah.
And so I want to create these character profiles so that as you're completing different little tasks and playbooks, you can kind of complete what if you want to have this type of character as a player in the world, what are the kinds of things that you complete in order to complete it? And this is a very much like a game analogy from many of the role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so I'm working on that, and that's like the funnest part, but it's taking a little creativity to do it. And yeah, but it's like, yeah, and my idea is, you know, the people get like one sort of like Q&A session where we talk about some topic around playfulness or playful mindset. Sometimes it's just me, sometimes I invite a speaker. Then we have like one playful activity that people do throughout the month. And then we also have like a little playful, like a playful activity, meaning it's just like super fun. And then one like playful kind of a thing that helps you get aligned with the playfulness. And then of course, we'll see what else comes up. Yeah, and then your card, and you have your card and see. But yeah, it's in construction.
Oh my God, that sounds like so much fun. I can't wait to see it. I'm excited. So where can people find you?
Sure. So I think you can find me on many, many places. You can see my website is alyeasandovar.com. Also, I have like my website for my company, which I'm still working on it because of the membership. So that's tinthue.com. If you're interested in checking out the interviews that we did with creatives and playful people, you can go to playfulcreativesummit.com. And then if you want to just talk to me directly, then find me on Instagram. Okay. And that would be like at Alyea Sandovar. And you can just DM me if you have questions about something or playfulness or whatever. And then I will message you back. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the last part of this, I usually do this little thing called the spotlight, right? So I want to ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
And, you know, I always give people a little bit of room, but, you know, try to answer them in a few sentences. Sometimes it's hard because some of them are big questions, but, all right. So the first one is, what lights you up?
Oh, this is a difficult question. What lights me up? So many things, but I'm going to try to be brief. I think loving lights me up. Dancing lights me up. And laughing lights me up.
Yes, beautiful. Okay, I love that. Some of the things that light me up too. Okay, so what advice would you give to your younger self? Knowing what you know today.
What I know today, I would tell her, you're beautiful, you're smart, and everything you'll ever wanted will happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. If we could only go back there, but you know, you're already engaging your inner child by the work that you do. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's very happy with you. And what advice do you have for the younger generation right now?
Yeah. I guess I would say, to look within first, rather than looking outside for validation. That I would tell them that you are already very wise, and if you looked within, you would come to know that more. And to be a little patient, because it takes time to grow into the wisdom of your best self.
Yes. Oh my God, I got chills I got chills with that one. That's beautiful. It is, yeah. Because so many kids, and not just kids, but I remember myself being in a hurry to grow up,
Yeah.
so it takes so much time, and and we have time. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You are just a beautiful soul, and I'm so happy
Oh,
that you
thank
reached
you.
out. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I could talk to you forever.
Oh, I hope we can do it again
I
offline
want to do it
anytime.
again,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
when you launch that membership. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Okay.
And whenever this all craziness gets worked out, I love Amsterdam, so I'm definitely planning on
Oh
going back.
yes,
So I
please,
would love to
please.
connect.
Oh, I would so love to host you there.
Yes,
Please come. It
I
would
would
be
love
so
it.
great.
I was there last
Yeah.
summer and I fell in love with it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really lovely home.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my
Oh
God. Thank you so much. I appreciate
yeah,
you and all the
yeah,
work that you
Makasi.
do.
Thank you.
Muchas
Thank
gracias.
you.
Okay.
Cuídate mucho. Okay.
Igual, nos vemos.
Okay, ciao.
Bye, chao.